I didn't think sharing a hotel room with my best friend would mess with my head this much. We'd done it before. Twice, actually. Once for a music festival and once during a road trip down the coast. Both times, it had been easy. Normal. Two friends splitting a cheap room to save cash. No big deal. But this time felt different. Probably because things were different now. We were both 27, both exhausted from our jobs, both in desperate need of a break when we booked this 3-day stay at a hotel near the beach. We joked about it for months. Brocation, he called it, but when we actually followed through, I didn't expect to feel this unsettled. And I sure as hell didn't expect the way things would play out on that second night. The thing about Marcus, my best friend since junior year of college, is that he's the kind of guy who makes you feel like the center of the universe, even if you're just talking about takeout options. He's got this easy way of leaning in when you talk, nodding like every word matters, like he's completely dialed into you. It's disarming. And I'd never really admitted it to myself before, but I think that's what hooked me from the start. Not the broad shoulders, not the warm, lazy smile, not even the way he always smells like cedarwood and coffee. No, it was the way he made me feel seen. Like I mattered. Of course, he didn't know how I felt. Not really. I was good at playing it off. I made sure our friendship always came first, even if I sometimes found myself lying awake after we hung out, replaying little moments that probably meant nothing. Like how he touched my shoulder when he laughed, or how he always picked the bed closest to me, even when we weren't sharing one, or how he never seemed to stay with anyone long, not guys, not girls, and yet he never said why. We checked into the hotel late, both of us tired from the drive. The room had one king bed and a pull-out couch. I offered him the bed, he said no way, and I didn't push it. He tossed his bag onto the couch and grinned at me like we were back in a dorm. I tried not to think about how close he'd be, how I'd feel hearing him breathe just a few feet away while I lay in bed pretending to sleep. That first night was normal. Jokes, room service, a dumb action movie. He passed out on the couch half-dressed, one arm hanging off the side like he'd been dropped there. I stared at the ceiling for a while before finally drifting off. The second night, though, that's where everything shifted. We'd spent the day in the sun, walking the beach, grabbing beers at a pierside bar, eating greasy tacos that made us both feel like shit afterward. By the time we got back to the room, the vibe was quieter. He didn't say much. Just took a long shower while I lay on the bed, scrolling through my phone, trying not to overthink things. When he came out, towel around his waist, hair damp, he didn't head straight for the couch like he had the night before. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed. "You good?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He nodded, then sighed. "Just tired. Too much sun." But I could tell something was off. He didn't move for a while. Just sat there, hands clasped between his knees, staring at the carpet like it held some kind of answer. Then he said something that made my stomach tighten. "Do you ever think we're avoiding something?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He shrugged, like he regretted saying it. "I don't know. Just us. This. Everything." I sat up, heart suddenly in my throat. "Marcus." He looked at me then. Really looked, and the air between us snapped tight, like a wire pulled too far. "I'm not drunk," he said, like he needed me to know that. "I'm just tired of pretending." I didn't move. I didn't speak, because I didn't know what to say. Then, slowly, like he was afraid I'd stop him, he reached out, fingers brushing my knee, barely there, but it was enough. Enough to make my whole body go still. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to, because that was the moment everything started to change. I didn't know what to do with his hand on my knee. It wasn't even that dramatic. Just his fingers, resting there like he'd forgotten they weren't supposed to be. But it felt like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. My whole body buzzed. My breath came a little too quick. My heart kicked up like I had been caught doing something wrong. Marcus didn't move. He didn't look away either. We just sat there in that weird, stretched silence, the TV playing some mindless travel show in the background. Neither of us watching, both of us trapped in that tiny space between What the hell is happening? And please don't let this stop. You don't have to say anything, he said finally. His voice quiet. His thumb moved a little. Just a slight back and forth on the side of my leg. Comforting. Tentative. Like he was testing the water, waiting for me to either pull away or dive in. I didn't pull away. I should have. If I'd wanted to keep things simple to protect the friendship, I should have laughed it off, made a dumb joke, shoved his hand away, and said, "Come on, man, you're tired." But I didn't. Instead, I asked the question I'd been sitting on for months, maybe years. "Why now?" He exhaled, hand still on me. "I don't know." That wasn't good enough. I turned toward him, forcing myself to meet his eyes. "Marcus." His jaw tensed. "Because I can't keep pretending I don't think about it. About you." My stomach flipped. "And Tyler?" I asked, instantly regretting it. He winced. "We broke up. A few weeks ago." I stared at him. "You didn't tell me." He gave a dry laugh. "Yeah. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even know how to explain it. He kept saying I wasn't really in it, that I was somewhere else even when I was with him." He looked back at me. I think he was right. I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't. I just sat there, staring at the place where his fingers curled gently against my knee, the soft pressure of him grounding me and confusing the hell out of me all at once. This was Marcus, my best friend, my person, the guy who once held my hair back when I threw up in college, the guy who showed up with takeout after my first real breakup, the guy who'd crashed on my couch 100 times and never, ever crossed a line. Until now. "You ever think about it?" he asked suddenly. I looked up. "About us," he said. "What it would be like." I swallowed. My mouth was dry. "Yeah." His hand squeezed my knee gently. "How long?" I didn't lie. "A while," he nodded, like he already knew. Like he'd known for a long time and just hadn't been ready to deal with it. Then he said something that knocked the air right out of my chest. "I used to think I wasn't allowed to feel this way." "What way?" He hesitated, eyes scanning my face. "Wanting something more with you." The silence between us changed shape. It stopped being heavy. It started to feel dangerous. I could have kissed him right then. I almost did. But he stood up instead, the moment slipping through our fingers like water. "I should crash," he said. "It's late." I watched him grab a pillow from the bed and head toward the couch like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just opened the door to something that couldn't be shut. But right before he turned off the lamp, he paused. "If I came back over there," he said without turning around, "would that be okay?" My voice came out hoarse. "Yeah." The lamp clicked off. The room went dark. And I felt the mattress shift behind me. The bed dipped behind me. Not by much. Just enough to feel the shift in weight. The subtle pull of the mattress like gravity had changed its mind. The room was still dark, the hum of the mini fridge in the corner filling the silence like a placeholder for the words we weren't saying. I didn't roll over. Neither did he. I just lay there, hyper aware of every breath he took, of the faint rustle of sheets, of the fact that my best friend, my straight, emotionally off-limits best friend, had just climbed into bed with me by choice. The distance between our bodies was less than a foot, and that foot might as well have been a mile. I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask what this meant, if it meant anything at all. But my throat felt tight, like one wrong word would shatter the moment. So I just lay there, staring at the faint glow of the alarm clock blinking red on the nightstand. 12:42 a.m. I thought he might fall asleep, that maybe this was about comfort or closeness or some old dorm room habit he'd slipped back into. But then I felt it. His fingers barely grazing the back of my hand. Not by accident. Slow, deliberate. Testing. I turned my palm upward, offering it to him in the dark. He slid his fingers into mine. It was such a small thing, but it felt massive. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. His thumb traced slow circles against my skin, and I felt something deep inside me start to break apart. Some careful wall I'd spent years reinforcing with sarcasm and boundaries and fake smiles. He was dismantling it, brick by brick, with one quiet touch. "You okay?" he asked. His voice was barely above a whisper. I nodded. "Yeah. You?" He paused. "I don't know." We lay there, our hands still joined, the silence stretched taut between us. "I don't want to screw this up," he said finally. "You haven't." "Yet." That word hung in the air like smoke. I rolled onto my side, facing him in the dark. I couldn't see much, just the outline of his jaw, the flicker of his eyes catching the light from the hallway under the door. "You don't have to do anything you're not sure about," I said. He let out a breath that sounded like relief and guilt tangled together. "I'm not unsure." "Then what is it?" He hesitated. Not with a guy. Not like this. Not with someone who matters." His words knocked something loose in my chest. I reached up, fingers brushing a strand of hair off his forehead. "I'm not asking you for anything," I said. "I'm just here." He shifted closer. Not a lot, but enough. Now our foreheads were almost touching, his breath warm against my face, his hand still in mine, tighter now. "I keep thinking about that night after my birthday," he said. I blinked. "The night we stayed up playing Mario Kart?" He nodded. "Yeah, you let me win." "I didn't let you win. You totally did. I saw you throw the match." I laughed under my breath. "Okay, maybe." "I remember you looking at me," he said. Well, I was trash talking, and I remember thinking, I wish I knew what he was thinking right now. "I was thinking your victory dance was embarrassing." He smiled. "No, you weren't." There was a long pause. Then, "I was thinking I wanted to kiss you." He didn't say anything, didn't need to. He closed the space between us instead. It wasn't a long kiss, or dramatic, or even particularly smooth. Our noses bumped, our teeth caught for a second. But it was real, and quiet, and warm in the way I hadn't let myself imagine it could be. When we pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine. "I'm sorry it took me so long," he said. I squeezed his hand. "You're here now." Neither of us said anything else after that. We just lay there, fingers tangled, breath slowing. And eventually, we drifted off. Together, when I woke up, the first thing I felt was his arm still draped across my waist. Not heavy, not gripping, just there. The second thing I noticed was the way his forehead was resting against the back of my neck, his breath soft and steady, warm enough to make my skin buzz. For a second, I thought I might still be dreaming, that everything from the night before, the hand-holding, the kiss, the quiet confession, had been some elaborate, beautiful thing my half-asleep brain had invented. But then he shifted. He mumbled something incoherent and pulled me a little closer, like his body had made a decision his mind hadn't caught up with yet. That's when it hit me. This was real. Marcus had kissed me. He had come to my bed, wrapped his fingers in mine, and admitted he'd wanted it for longer than he'd let on. That he hadn't just been curious or lonely or experimenting, but that he was here, with me, on purpose. I didn't move. I didn't want to risk breaking the spell. But of course, spells don't last. A few minutes later, I felt him wake up. I heard the soft inhale. The way his body tensed slightly, like he was checking to see if I was awake. I waited, pretending I wasn't. Gave him the chance to pull away if he wanted. He didn't. Instead, he let out a quiet sigh and whispered, "You up?" I smiled into the pillow, barely. He shifted, arm still around me. Last night was, yeah. He didn't finish the sentence, and I didn't make him. We stayed like that for another few minutes, both of us slowly waking up, our bodies still warm and close. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't rushed. It was just us, comfortable and terrifying all at once. Finally, he pulled back, and I rolled over to face him. His hair was a mess, sticking up in all directions. His eyes were still heavy with sleep. and he looked at me like he was afraid I might vanish. "Are we okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Are you?" He nodded too, slower. "I think so. I don't know what to do now." "You don't have to figure it out right away." "I know. He rubbed his face with one hand. "I don't want to pretend nothing happened." "Me neither." A beat passed. Then he smiled, small and uncertain. "You always sleep this warm?" I laughed. "Shut up." He leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to my shoulder. It was so casual, so gentle that it caught me off guard. Then he sat up. "We should probably grab breakfast before everything closes." I watched him stand, stretch, scratch the back of his neck like he always did, after sleeping in weird positions. He reached for his bag, pulled out a fresh t-shirt, and tossed it on without looking at me. For a moment, I just watched him move around the room. Something about it made me ache. The normalcy of it. Like we hadn't just crossed a line we could never uncross. When he turned back to me, he must have seen something in my face, because he walked over, leaned down, and kissed me again. Slower this time. No hesitation. No nerves. When he pulled back, he whispered, "I'm glad it was you." I didn't know how to answer that. My chest was too tight. But he didn't wait for one. He just grinned and said, "Come on, let's go find some eggs or pancakes or whatever the hell people eat," after completely shifting their friendship dynamic overnight. I rolled my eyes, threw a pillow at him, and got up. And even though nothing was certain, and we had 1,000 conversations still ahead of us, I felt good, hopeful, because the guy who'd always slept on the couch had climbed into bed with me and hadn't run away in the morning. We didn't talk much at breakfast. Not because things were weird. Actually, it was the opposite. Marcus seemed lighter. He cracked jokes about the waitress's aggressive coffee refills, stole bites of my pancakes like he'd always done, and grinned at me across the table like we shared a secret, which, I guess, we did. But underneath all that, I felt a subtle shift, like we'd stepped into a new version of ourselves that neither of us fully knew how to wear yet. Every time our knees brushed under the table, every time our eyes met a second too long, I wondered, is this okay? Can we do this out here, in the daylight? He didn't hold my hand. He didn't touch me, and I didn't push it. Not yet. After breakfast, we walked the beach. It was already hot, sun beating down, sand too warm under our bare feet. There weren't many people around, just a few early risers and dog walkers. He walked close, shoulders brushing occasionally, but again, no contact. No obvious change in our rhythm. Still just two guys on vacation. And maybe that was smart. Maybe that's what we needed. A little space between the kiss and whatever came next. But I won't lie. Part of me felt like I'd been yanked backward. Like last night had been this surreal, beautiful moment, and now the world was snapping us back into place. At one point, we sat on a low wall overlooking the water. He kicked his flip-flops off and leaned back on his hands, eyes on the waves. "I keep thinking I should feel more weird about this," he said finally. "This? You. Us. What we did." I tried to keep my voice steady. "And do you?" He looked at me. "No, that's the weird part." I didn't answer. I just let the silence stretch. Then he asked something I wasn't expecting. "Do you think we'll tell anyone?" I shrugged. "Eventually. If there's something to tell." "There is," he said quietly. "I just don't know how to talk about it yet." I nodded. "That's okay." He smiled like I'd just taken a weight off his chest. "Can I ask you something?" he said, turning a little more toward me. "Sure. Back when I was with Tyler, did you ever hate me for it?" I blinked, caught off guard. "No. I mean, yeah, it sucks sometimes. But hate? Never." He looked out at the water again. He used to ask me if I had feelings for someone else. I always said no, and I thought I was telling the truth. But now, I'm not so sure. My stomach twisted. Not in a bad way, just in that, oh shit, this is real kind of way. "You don't owe me anything, Marcus," I said. "Not explanations, not guilt." "I know," he said. "I just don't want to be the guy who figures things out too late." "You're not late," I said. "You're here." He glanced at me, his face soft. Then, after a pause, he reached over and rested his hand lightly on my knee. Just for a moment. Just enough to let me feel it. He didn't say anything else. He didn't have to. We sat like that until the sun got too hot and the beach too crowded. And later, when we got back to the hotel room, he didn't hesitate. He pulled me into a slow kiss, hands on my face, careful, like he was afraid I might slip away if he wasn't gentle enough. I didn't. I stayed right there. We didn't leave the room for the rest of the afternoon. Not for any dramatic reason, just the kind of quiet contentment that made moving seem unnecessary. We sprawled out on the bed, half-dressed, tangled in each other in that lazy, intimate way people do when time feels suspended. He lay on his back, one arm tucked under his head, the other draped across my stomach. I rested against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, letting the steady rhythm calm the nerves that hadn't fully gone away. At one point, he said, "I haven't felt this calm in I don't even know how long." I didn't say anything. I just traced slow circles on his side, nodding slightly. I knew what he meant, but in the back of my mind, I could feel the clock ticking. The trip was almost over. Tomorrow we'd be driving back. Back to real life. Separate apartments. Work. Friends. Normalcy. Or some version of it. And I had no idea what this would be once we got home. Later, after a nap and a slow shower, separately, though it was a near thing, we ordered pizza and sat on the hotel balcony as the sun started to set. He had one foot propped up on the railing, still wearing the same dumb hoodie he'd worn all through college. I was in gym shorts and one of his old shirts I'd borrowed at some point. The pizza was too hot, the soda too flat, and none of that mattered, but the silence between us did. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't even tense. It was just full, like we were both waiting for someone to say the thing we hadn't said yet. He spoke first. "What do we do when we go home?" I glanced at him. "You mean about us?" He nodded, chewing on the edge of his thumbnail, a nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. I took a breath. "I don't know. What do you want to do?" He hesitated. "I want to keep seeing you." "You already see me," he rolled his eyes. "You know what I mean." I did. "Are you ready for that?" I asked carefully. "For people knowing?" His jaw tightened. Not in anger, just thought. "I don't know. I'm not ashamed or anything. He looked out toward the ocean. "I've spent so long being that guy. The guy everyone expects to be straight. The guy who dates girls, who always keeps it light, who never gets too serious." "You don't have to be anyone else," I said. "Not for me, not for them." "I know, but I think I want to try." "Try what?" He looked at me, this small, unsure smile playing on his lips. "Being yours, not just here, not just in this weird hotel bubble, but out there too." I didn't answer for a long second. Then I nodded. "Yeah, I want that too." We fell quiet again. Then, as if needing to break the tension, he nudged me with his foot. "Just promise me something." "What?" "If we try this and I screw something up, don't just walk away." I looked at him, surprised. "I'm serious," he said. "I've never done this. With a guy. With someone I actually care about. I'm gonna say the wrong thing. Freeze up sometimes. I don't want that to ruin us." "You're allowed to mess up," I said. "You're human." "So are you," he said, nudging me again. "Barely," I laughed. "Wow, romantic." He smiled, leaned over, and kissed me. That night, we didn't talk about the future anymore. We just fell asleep the same way we had the night before, wrapped up in each other, the window cracked open to let the ocean breeze in, our limbs a mess under the blankets. But this time, it didn't feel like something we had to protect or keep secret. It felt real. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. The drive home felt longer than the drive out. Not because of traffic or bad weather. We barely spoke for the first hour, both of us lost in our own heads, hands resting casually near each other on the center console, like we were still negotiating how public we were allowed to be. He drove. I watched the road pass by, the beach slowly giving way to highways and strip malls and the familiar sprawl of home. At one point, he reached over and laced his fingers through mine. Just like that. No announcement. No build-up. I glanced at him. "You sure?" He nodded, eyes still on the road. "Yeah." So I squeezed his hand back and let myself breathe. Back in the city, reality came rushing in fast. We stopped for gas. He chatted with the cashier like nothing had changed. My phone buzzed with work emails I'd ignored all weekend. The world didn't pause just because ours had shifted. When we pulled into my place, neither of us moved right away. "Well," he said, shutting the engine off, "this is where we pretend everything's normal again." I shook my head. "No, this is where we decide what normal is now." He smiled at that. "You always were better with words." Inside, everything looked the same. Same couch, same clutter on the coffee table, same stupid plant I kept forgetting to water. But the air felt different. Charged, fragile, like one wrong move could shatter it. He set his bag down and hovered near the door like he didn't know if he was supposed to stay. "You don't have to go," I said. "I know," he replied. I don't want to rush things." I stepped closer. "We're not rushing. We're just not pretending." That seemed to settle something in him. We ordered takeout, sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, like old habits were hard to break. Then, halfway through eating, he leaned over and rested his head on my shoulder. No fireworks, no big moment, just comfort. Over the next few weeks, that became our thing. Not labels, not announcements, just us. He came over more, stayed the night sometimes, left a toothbrush in my bathroom without asking. We didn't tell our friends right away, not because we were hiding, but because we wanted to be sure this was ours before it became everyone else's opinion. There were awkward moments. The first time someone asked him if he was seeing anyone, he froze, glanced at me, then said, "Yeah, I am." My chest felt like it might crack open. There were missteps too, days when he pulled back a little. Times when I overthought everything and had to remind myself that learning doesn't happen in a straight line. But he didn't disappear. That mattered. One night, about a month later, we lay in bed, limbs tangled, the city quiet outside my window. He traced patterns on my arm, slow and absent-minded. "You know," he said, "I used to think I'd missed my chance at something real." "With who?" He smiled, turned to look at me. "With you." I swallowed. "You didn't miss it." "No," he said softly, "I just had to grow into it." I kissed him then. Not careful, not hesitant, just sure, and in that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes love doesn't explode into your life. Sometimes it sits next to you on a couch for years, waiting for you to notice it.